What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Soul Hoops podcast. My name is Jeffrey, and I'm joined by Ryan and Matthias. As always, we are here to do the Pacific Division preview, talk a little bit of preseason, and, see where that takes us. Ryan, Matthias, how are you guys doing on this fine Friday evening?
I'm doing well. Midterm week kind of just wrapped up. I've got one more next week, but for the most part, tests are behind me. Studying is behind me. I'm feeling good. I think things went well. I'm excited to be talking about some basketball again because preseason has been so fun to watch. So I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm in a similar boat. Midterms behind me as well. Kind of got some free time. Hopefully going to make some extra content. Life's good.
Nice. Jeff, how about you?
Yeah, I've been good. I'm starting with a lot of exams and papers that I have to write. I just wrote this philosophy paper this week, so I've been pretty busy. I also am just excited for basketball to be back. Seeing real basketball has been, or NBA basketball, I should say, has been exciting. And also with the WNBA playoffs and finals, been catching that here and there when I can because the timing for that league needs to be revamped so much.
Yeah. we got to talk about the WNBA finals at least a little bit because oh man,
I want to talk. It's
the Aces. Fun. The Aces are so fucking good. Like oh my,
it's literally
we've known they've been so good, but they actually beat the brakes off the Liberty in game 2.
Yeah,
Katie Warriors type of stuff.
Their first quarter was insane. I gotta find it. Their offensive rating was.
It's like 200.
Yeah, it was around the 200s. I think is what it was.
That's ridiculous.
Which is just absurd.
Especially considering the shortened quarters too, how they're a little bit shorter. 200 offensive rating for any stretch of time is fucking nuts. And this is without Candace Parker too, who played a big role for the Aces early on in the season. She's been injured for a while, and the Aces are still dominant. Asia, Asia Wilson,
best player in the league.
Honestly, the best player in the league. I thought Asia should have won MVP with how good she's been and how good she continues to be, and how she just completely dissected the Liberty defense to where they didn't even have anything that resembled an answer for her. And the Liberty, I thought, had a pretty good game 1. A lot of that was because of all those threes that one player is making. I forget her name right now. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Those really threes were crazy.
Yeah. Did you see LeBron's tweet about her?
Yeah.
It killed me, dude, because he was it's the background of it was she's got a damn cannon on her. I'm like, whoa, bro. You gotta watch the wording on that. Because he's man, she's got some cannon. I'm like, holy
oh my god.
I was like, Bron, buddy.
He's an old head.
Yeah,
those threes were crazy. Also for
she was hitting she shoots them off of 1 foot leaning.
Yeah,
and I'm
and the form is so nice too. The shot just looks so good. The arc on it is great every single time. Also for the Liberty, Jonquel Jones, their center, dominant in the paint, on the glass, even stretching out, hitting some mid-ranges, threes. Yeah. She's a super good player. I thought she's been good all year for the Liberty, but really in game 1, I thought she was looking dominant. Game 2, the whole Liberty team just couldn't really get it together. Sabrina Ionescu just had very little impact on the game in game 2 because the shots weren't really falling, and she's not the best defender. And you saw the Aces guards just kind of hunting her down.
We saw that was an issue against the Sun, I believe, right? With Ionescu, she was getting cooked that series, even though they came out with a win, and but now she's getting fed to KP and Chelsea Gray, which are one of the best guard tandems in the league.
Yeah.
And they're cooking her. They are, and it's like it's a mismatch for everybody, but especially Sabrina, who struggles on the defensive end. She's got a long road ahead if the Liberty want to do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also the WNBA got expanded, right? They did expansion.
Yeah.
They
So
confirmed one team, I believe.
Yep. So the Bay is getting a new team that's going to be owned by the Golden State Warriors, and I think they're gonna expand to another city. From what I've seen, Portland is looking like a potential option for that. I think Denver's been in the mix. I think of first conversations. Sacramento, maybe if they wanted to add another West Coast team.
I
maybe just like bring back some franchises that
got shut down, right?
That got shut down.
Yeah.
I think that would be cool. Like Sacramento getting another team would be awesome because those Sacramento fans are crazy, and I know they'd go so hard for if they brought the Monarchs back. So
yeah,
that'd be cool.
That's how Portland would be with the Fire, dude. Like we're all like that's what we want. I know the city has had a huge want for the team back. They had the commissioner tour the whole city, tour the Rose Garden, tour the grounds, all that. And I know there's been reports about it ever since. People are pushing for it. The Fire would so be welcome in Portland again. And I'm sure it would be a lot more successful.
Yeah, I don't know if I told you this, but like when I was in Portland over the summer, we were driving around and I saw this billboard that said like bring the WNBA back to Portland. And I was like, they should honestly, because I think Portland would be a great market for it. I think WNBA expansion is great, especially if you can get it to like a big market like the Bay Area, because I think getting people, getting big markets interested in the game is just big, right?
Yeah, and also like expansion is very much needed from the business side of the WNBA, without like outside of the actual monetary value, but like the talent pool in the WNBA is so small because there's not enough teams to support the actual players in draft. Like first round picks are being like players are literally being waived within like a year and a half.
Yeah,
and like it's just expansion helps that. It's the same thing that the NBA is going through, obviously to a little bit larger of an extent because of how big the NBA is as a business, but like the talent pool is only getting bigger and bigger, and the people who are supporting the league is only getting bigger and bigger. So I think a lot more basketball fans, especially NBA fans, are supporting the WNBA now. So it should be it's an exciting time for that league, and it's such a young league, and people tend to forget that.
Exactly.
Like,
that's what I was.
It's only like 20. It's only like 25 years old.
Like it's not that old.
96. 96.
Yeah, I know. I definitely feel like at times I've kind of taken for granted the fact that like my home state and home market has a WNBA team, like the Lynx. I went to more Lynx games this summer than I ever have been in a single season, and watched them on TV and in the playoffs and all that. So WNBA is awesome, and if you're listening to this and you like aren't tapped into the WNBA like that, or maybe you're thinking about trying to get into it but you aren't, watch the finals that's going on right now, because like there's no better time or series that you can really pick to start watching. Game 3 is going to be in Brooklyn. I can't remember what day it is. Is it today? Tomorrow? It's coming up.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the schedule. I know their first game was placed during NFL Sunday.
Yeah,
like
which
prime
is
time NFL Sunday games, which
12 p.m. Sunday 12 p.m.
So
right in the middle of the
which is unfortunate timing, but if you can if you could break away from football for a bit, check out the game, because it's gonna be fun. I mean, the Liberty have just a crazy offensive team. The Aces are like a historic offense and defense, but the Liberty are like 1B to the Aces as far as like team construction, and they have the MVP Brandon Stewart on their team, Sabrina Ionescu, who is one of like the most famous basketball players in the world, honestly.
Yeah.
Jonquel Jones, we talked about. They're a good team.
Great offensive engine. Sabrina is like, I'm trying to think of like a good player comparison, but she just can score and play make the hell out of the ball, and she struggles defensively. So it's like, do what you want.
It's like Trae Young a little bit, honestly.
Trae Young, and then Breonna Stewart's like Kevin Durant. Like,
yeah, she's so good.
she's just a big that can play like a guard and that can play defense. So it's like, think of a Trae Young type player with Breonna Stewart. I mean, with not Breonna Stewart, with KD comparisons. You know, this offense is not something. It's not something that exactly. The offense is electric. So seeing the Aces make it difficult for them is, like you said, it's a historic defense as well.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's talk a little bit about NBA preseason. So NBA preseason, we talked about it last time, was kicking off with the Mavs and Timberwolves games, and now it's in full swing. I think all of the teams have played officially now.
Yeah.
How you guys feeling about preseason? There's been some really big matchups, with the biggest being the Chet and Wemby matchup.
Yeah.
And what I want to say about that matchup is, if for any reason you people were lying to themselves about Victor Wembanyama, you should just pretend like you didn't say those things. Just lie to yourself and everyone else and just accept that he's going to be very, very good right away. Watching him play basketball is like, it's like the divine.
He's crazy.
Presence. Like,
he's actually crazy.
He's hitting Kyrie layup package, scoop layups at 7'5", and he's bringing the ball up the half court. He's shooting threes. He's taking people off the dribble. He's literally blocking people's shot while he's standing at like the free throw line.
Yeah, those recovery blocks are actually like unfair.
That rip through from the 3-point line, and he ripped it from the 3-point line to like the first hash he could reach, and he ripped it.
That's unfair.
And had enough balance to turn around and beat the OKC defender down the floor.
It's crazy. Like I'm high on Wemby, right? There's so much reason to be high on Wemby, and like we all I remember when we did our hot takes episode, I said that Wemby could be all defensive second team as a rookie, and we saw that that's so possible because his like what we said, him as like a weak side, like a recovery defender, shot blocker.
Literally supercharged Giannis. It's literally supercharged Giannis on the as a help side guy.
And he's got the IQ to go along with his size, which
he doesn't jump at everything.
Better. No,
he does not jump at everything.
I thought like his offense against the Thunder was better than I thought he would probably ever look his rookie year. Like the one thing I would always say about Wemby is that like chill on the expectations on the offensive side at least right away, because it's going to take him a while for that 3-pointer to really like be fine-tuned and for him to grow into that body even more. And I feel like I'm kind of wrong about that. Like his threes, when he takes them, like you expect them to go in because his percentages have been so good every single time he's played. And the body control, the pace of play, it looks so much farther along than I thought it would be at this point. And like you just think about how the Spurs are about to play 82 games, and how much better that's gonna look. It's like, wow, he's unbelievable.
Yeah, with Victor, I was really actually surprised with his willingness to pass, and like compared to maybe he's just more comfortable with the NBA game now, but compared to summer league, watching him against OKC, he seems
a lot different.
Be a lot different in his approach to this passing.
You can tell that though, because when you evaluate summer league performances, obviously it's really great, but summer league, both the team and the actual way it's played are so vastly different from real NBA games due to the quality of shot creation that you're playing alongside and the spacing. Because if you're a really good shooter, you're probably not getting real summer league minutes. You're probably just on an NBA roster if you're a good if you're a high level NBA shooter. Like you're probably just on a roster. You're not playing summer league. And if you're a really good shot creator, unless you're a first or second year player, you're not playing summer league either. So
Yeah.
it's like you're not. It's so hard, and the court's a little bit tightened because it's a summer league, and the fouling and the physicality is so much different.
Yeah, and the speed of like you talk like every single NBA player it's asked about what's been the hardest thing to adjust to when it comes to summer league is it's always how fast the game is played, and I think we saw that with Wemby a lot too. He looked rattled in summer league. He had that one really good game where he just kind of took over, but like but for most of it, I mean, for most of summer league, he looked a bit rattled. Like things were moving pretty fast, but against OKC the other night, I was getting tacos and I was like in the restaurant, like watching it on my phone as I'm waiting for my order to be ready, and that's when I saw like the recovery block against Jalen Williams and like the catch and shoot three at the top of the key. It's like, oh my god, he looks so much more comfortable with the pace of play, and the instincts are like already so well refined for a player who's like 19, who's my age. It's crazy. It's actually crazy.
And I think you kind of talked about it a little bit with his athleticism, and I don't know if it's a hot take, but I actually think he plays more like a small forward than a center, and I think he will for a majority of his career.
He plays like a shooting guard.
Yes, that's what I mean. And he's guarding small forwards more than he's like a lot of times as well. Summer league, he was guarding Brandon Miller. We see him out on the wing guarding guards and small forwards. And I think that's what people don't understand. Yes, he's 7'4", but his skill set and his just like the way he sees the game and the way he plays works better if he plays like a wing. Like, do not expect him to go if Giannis is on him. Do not expect him to go try to post up Giannis. He's going to come off a pin down. He's going to come off a pin down and hit a side step or a floater.
And he's a high enough IQ player that he understands. Like, I think one of the biggest misconceptions about the physical side of basketball is that all players want to use size to their advantage. And it's just not true. Like, Kevin Durant is like a top 15 player of all time, and he has never been a physical player. He has always been, and that's why everyone loves him, right? Like, everyone loves KD because he's so smooth at his size and he's so skilled and stuff. But then whenever there's a draft prospect that's a little bit smaller, a little bit less athletic, skinny, but tall and lanky, you know, they're like, oh, how is he going to handle the NBA? How is he going to use that skill set to his advantage? Well, every player, especially players with that caliber of prospect or that caliber of player, they all have a unique game. It's not like you're drafting a role player that's like, this isn't Poku. Like, this is a generational talent. Like this is a 3-level scorer at 7'5" and with a guard's handle. Like this is Kevin Durant on steroids almost with how big he is. So I think people just very much over exaggerate the effect that a lot of those things are going to have on people. And the injury concerns are always there, but there's injury concerns with any professional athlete. Like injuries can happen to anyone.
Yeah.
Like Derrick Rose, no one was like, man, those injury concerns, man. That's why you shouldn't draft him number 1. It's like, no. It's like draft anyone. Yeah. Anything can happen to anyone.
Hey, the more I like watch this Chet and Wemby saga with the whole too tall, too skinny thing, I get why KD lied about his height. I do, because KD during the draft process and all of that would have been dealing with the same bullshit. He would have been dealing with the too skinny, and it's. I think it's really because of the height, and people don't know that the modern NBA is so different than it is.
That's what I was about to say.
Even like 5 years ago, the big skill level has multiplied.
Yeah. Overall, the difference in the way that like what you said, even 5, 6, 7 years ago, it's so different because now when you have prospects like Wembanyama and Chet, and you can't really tell if they're a 3, 4, or 5, that's considered a good thing nowadays, but back then that was not. Like back then it was like all centers were going to be like 260 pounds and big dudes who would just
Feel like Brooke
rebound,
Lopez.
the Brooke Lopez type.
Yeah.
And then power forwards were also like big dudes, like 7 foot.
They were the lanky ones.
They're the lanky ones, like the KG, Evan Mobley, like that kind of build. And then the small forwards were just like, 6'8", whatever. But now
the shooting guards that were too heavy.
Yeah,
the muscular shooting guards.
Now it's like if you don't have a true position and you can be like used in many different ways, that's considered to be like a really good thing.
Especially as a prospect.
Yeah, it's just a lot different in the way that talent is evaluated. And now it's like they want centers to be like 230 pounds and to be able to stretch out and hit pick and pop threes. And now they want now it's like power forwards are like the Draymonds, Aaron Gordon type. It's so much different.
Yeah.
So that's why basketball is so beautiful. It's an ever evolving sport.
Yeah.
And I think
the small. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Good. You can go. No, I was just gonna say like
this.
I was just gonna say like
I was just gonna fucking go.
My God.
Fuck you. Fuck you.
The
small forward for the Nuggets is taller than their power forward. Like Michael Porter Jr., he's 6'10", he's lengthy, but he's an athlete, so he plays small forward, even though Gordon is smaller. That was what I was trying to get off. So.
No, you're hey man, that's what happens when you're on a online call and I can't tell what you're actually gonna say until 2 seconds after you say it. But I was gonna add the same type of thing. I was just gonna say like having players that can plug and play in multiple positions and still play their own brand of basketball, but it works in various positions is so much more valuable than I think anything else ever has been, because if you have a player who can play that's a good example. Michael Porter Jr. He could play the 2, the 3, and the 4, and you would not have a problem with his skill set being played at any of those positions because you could find a player to plug and play alongside him, and it would not matter.
Yeah.
And I think that's just so valuable. And if you can have a guy with superstar potential that you can plug and play, and he can do anything you want for you on both ends of the floor, why wouldn't you want that, regardless of what the future might hold? And I want to go to the other side of this because we've been talking a lot about Wemby, but Chet Holmgren is going to be a very good player for a very long time, regardless if he ever reaches like the star ceiling that I think a lot of people think he may have. He is just going to be a very good player and contribute to winning at such a high level because of how smart of a defender he is and how versatile he can be on offense. I think his offense can be up and down at times, but at the end of the day, like the shot is coming along. I think the ball handling is okay for a big man that's not going to have ball handling.
The handle looked pretty good in that game.
Yeah, it does. And he's not going to have ball handling responsibility in OKC. They have 3 ball handlers alongside him. It's not going to matter. But I think and that's another thing with the small frame stuff with Chet. It's like if you watched him play at Gonzaga and you look at his film, he was guarding guys that were bigger than him. And it didn't matter. Like that might have been shorter, but they were bigger than him. It did not matter. He knows how to use his hands. He knows how to establish a good base. And it reminds me of like undersized football players, like just being able to know how to place their hands, how to move their feet well to get push, and how to absorb contact. And he's really good with using his lower body to absorb upper body contact. I don't know if you know kind of feel what I mean. Like he's very good at angling his body to absorb that contact.
Yep.
But he's going to be very good. And I think he also is holding a grudge.
Yeah, Chet, he's looked really good.
He's really good hands.
Yeah, Jalen Williams though for the Thunder, he
J-Dub.
He was a motherfucker out there.
Bro, he's a really good slasher, man.
He's
really
a really
good slash.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure his rims back last year were crazy.
Yeah, and he was a good shooter last year. He was a good shooter, especially for a rookie. Really good shooter. But like his jump shot, it looks so smooth. It looks a lot smoother than it did last year already, just based off this one game. Like,
does he give you Chris Middleton vibes?
Like
an athletic Chris?
Like, he gives me way more than Chris Middleton. I think J-Dub can be really.
I think he could be too, but I feel like he's kind of got a game like that.
Yeah, it's kind of weird watching him play too, because considering how weird of a build he has, it's kind of like confusing to how he moves the way he does and how smooth he makes everything look. But like,
he's got long ass arms.
He's got thick shoulders, super long arms, kind of like a small looking head sometimes. It's weird. But
that video of him, that picture of him in the offseason. That picture of him working out in the offseason was hilarious because like he didn't have a shirt on, so like you can see his full torso and stuff, and his torso is so short compared to the rest of his body. Like he has such long legs and arms. His torso just looks so small compared to the rest of his body. I always think it's funny looking at professional athletes' body like sizes because they're all like freak of nature body type wise. So like it's just funny.
That is actually like a good thing. Like the fact that his arms make his torso look so small is a benefit for him on the court.
And he has such good defensive upside.
Yeah. Speaking of like weird builds of a kind of a similar cut, Bilal Coulibaly for the Wizards.
He was hooping.
Yes.
He's been hit like his defensive upside doesn't get talked about like at all, or not nearly enough, because him defensively is going to be like a monster in even a year from now, 2 years. His defensive like instincts and capabilities right now are already so good, and his frame and build is actually crazy because what is his wingspan? Because it has to be like, it looks like 7'8" out there sometimes.
I read something crazy.
It's crazy.
I'm really high on Bilal. He had a good game for Washington. I've heard reports of him starting out in the G League, which I fucking hate. I'm just gonna say that right now. I hate it. He can contribute on any team right now with his defense. He's had enough chops as a ball handler in pick and roll options that I think you can throw him out.
Measured at 7'2".
Jesus.
7'2" or 7'3".
He's like 6'6" too.
6'7".
That's crazy.
I'm looking at the actual draft profile on NBA.com because this is from the actual combine. Come on, this doesn't actually have it. One thing that's horrible is the NBA's prospect tracker is the worst, by the way. 6'7" with a 7'2" wingspan. And he's still growing. Apparently, he's taller than he was when he measured.
Yeah, he's looked crazy.
Yeah, he's just been fit. He's going to be one of those guys that, you could be high on the offense and being able to develop that, but no matter what, he's going to be a guy that's going to be able to get you at playing off ball. Like he's going to be able to get you 10 to 15 points a night, five rebounds, 5 assists some nights, like a couple steals, a couple blocks, like probably guard the 1 through 4 at this point, depending on the size of the big. But that's such a valuable. I really hope the Wizards just let their young guys play minutes. I don't care if you have to shorten the rotation for them or keep the rotation really long with lower minutes for these guys. Just let them play NBA minutes. Like you saw what happened with Johnny Davis, which he just looks like he's just not going to be an NBA player.
He's
and sadly, because he's like the best Wisconsin prospect since like Frank Kaminsky, sadly. But that's good. Anyways, Wisconsin does not produce Wisconsin real basketball players. Do not draft people from Wisconsin. I will tell you that. But like throwing dudes in the G League who need minutes, like it just doesn't work. Like unless they're really, really, really raw or a back end prospect, like or you're a contending team, it's not worth it. Just have a long rotation. There's value in it. Any other guys from preseason?
I just wanted to make another example that Bilal is another modern NBA wing. He's another guy that can play 2 through 4.
Yeah.
I think it's so interesting too.
Do you guys want to talk about Scoot at all?
Yeah, I want to say one thing quick about that, like the modern stuff. I think it's so interesting that there's so many less like terrible bust prospects getting drafted way higher than they should be. And I think it's mostly because the everyday person has so much more access to NBA media, film, and statistics for overseas players and college players that I think there's so many more people evaluating these prospects that there's not like so many lies being circulated by coaching staffs in college anymore about these prospects and these players. Like, I think it's so funny that there's like been so many less like players that are just straight bad coming out of the draft.
Yeah.
Like, but
scouting has improved a lot.
Yeah. Well, let's talk. I'll let you talk about the Portland Trailblazers because me and Ryan were talking about it, and it looks fun. It looks like a fun team. Like I said, like everybody said.
First and foremost, they will be fun. Scoot, Shaden, and Ant all started together for the first time last night. The first game with T started at small forward instead of Shaden. They looked okay together. Shaden looked okay.
Who did they play?
They played the Suns. Do I think it'll be what?
Did they start? And did the Suns start their guys?
Yeah, or not Beal, but like Booker and KD.
Beal's
and
hurt. Yeah,
Nurkic.
Booker, KD, Nurk, Nas,
Eric Gordon. Yeah, Eric Gordon. They played too.
Eric Gordon. Yeah, I was missing the last starter. And then, we ran out Ant, Scoot, Shaden, Grant, Ayton. And first quarter, we looked really good. Scoot looked really good. Ant looked really good. Ball was moving really fast. But, Suns woke up and we turned around pretty fast. Overall, Scoot, I can't complain. Scoot looked amazing, like better than I expected.
Yeah.
Super calm, collected. Catch and shoot 3 looks great. The pull-up 3 still has some questions, but his jumper looks way, way further down the road than I expected, honestly. I thought that would be way more of a worry. Pace, even when playing fast, he's under control at all times.
It's amazing.
It's honestly really amazing. And he's shown that he's okay playing off the ball as a cutter, and he's valuable as a cutter and playing off ball. And I think with Anthony and him both being able to or willing to do that and play off ball, because Anthony obviously he made his name as an off ball player. There's going to be a new brand of basketball in Portland for this new era, and I'm excited. And Shaden as well. He's an off ball guy, so the ball is going to be shared a lot. I think we're going to see a lot more sets ran and a lot more structure. But also, outside of that, we're going to try to play fast so we don't have to do the structure, because we will suck in slow down half court sets. We just will.
Yeah.
We're a young team, no vets.
I also I want to say this really quick. This is nothing to do with the actual basketball being played on the court, but a lot of people on Twitter saying that they've Ayton had a really high effort chase down block, recovery block one off the glass in one of the games. People are like, I've never seen Ayton do that before in my life. I'm like, did you just have you ever watched DeAndre Ayton play? I think people's memory of DeAndre Ayton just exists 2021 finals to now. There's a playoff run where DeAndre Ayton was one of the best defensive players on the court every single series. like no matter who is out there. And the last 2 years has just been absolutely miserable, clearly, because he does not want to talk about Phoenix. He does not want to talk about his teammates in Phoenix. He does not want to talk about the Suns in general, the ownership, the trade. Like I think he just straight up hated the team. Or they hated him so much that he just like hated like being there.
Yeah. Well, we've questioned on the pod before. I think Ryan's questioned a lot, like how bad truly was that relationship, and the fact that he doesn't even want to speak on the team at all.
Yeah.
Like at all. It has to show that the relationship was tarnished like badly, very, very badly, beyond repair and beyond what any of us could think or really have any sort of knowledge of.
Yeah.
Props to the Suns for keeping it under wraps. I'm not gonna lie, because apparently the way Ayton worded some of his interviews, it sounded like he requested out of Phoenix this summer, and there was no reports of that at all. So Suns have kept it down.
Yep.
I also think they just didn't take him seriously at all.
Yeah. Before we get into our division preview for the Pacific Division, I do want to talk about one more player, and that is Paolo. Paolo, he looks. We always say that like so and so looks really good, or so and so looks like amazing. Paolo looks like he could be like a top 25, 30 player by the end of this season with how good he looks already in that game against New Orleans. And how, like, honestly, how good the Magic looked as a whole, because the Magic as a unit, they surprised me even with how good they were playing in that game. Their guards, Jalen Suggs, is looking like the offense is starting to come around a lot, or at least that's what I took from that one game I saw. Franz Wagner is still very good. Franz Wagner, Markelle Fultz looked really good. Anthony Black didn't look amazing from what I saw, but he has a learning curve for sure with this team. But Paolo especially looks unguardable out there.
Yeah, his defense has taken so many strides this summer, and I'm going to attribute it to him playing on Team USA, because he, with Zion one-on-one, he was not. People are talking about it like he was like keeping up with him one-on-one. He was clamping up. No, he was getting a lot of help side defense, but the player like Zion, you are going to need that. But his IQ, defensive IQ, seems like he has spent time in the film room trying to understand how to get better on that end of the floor, because he looks better with his hands. He looks better with his feet. He looks so much better as a help side defender. And when there's going to be so many, obviously preseason is very hard to evaluate because there's been a lot of I think there's been a lot more starters and like star level players playing this year in preseason than we've seen before the last few years. And the sets are not going to be very complex. People are not going to be going 150%, obviously, on defense and offense, like whatever. But for what the valuation in a real NBA game, 48-minute game, Paolo looks like he could be an above average to good defender on the court and be able to guard bigger wings and be a help side rim presence. And if he can provide that value alongside Wendell Carter, alongside Franz, who is a very good point of attack defender, alongside Markelle, who is also a very good point of attack defender, and Jalen Suggs, I think from the guard rotation, looks like Jalen Suggs is going to be the starting two. Like, if Jalen Suggs is starting at the 2, Markelle's starting at the 1, Franz is at the 3, Paul's at the 4, Wendell's at the 5, the shot creation is there, the finishing ability is there, the passing is there, the ball handling is there, and the defense is going to be absolutely electric. Like, the only question mark is shooting, but if Jalen Suggs' jump shot can get back to the level that people thought it could be coming out of the draft, and Paolo cannot be like 1 of 40 for 4 months straight from 3. Like, and Wendell's shot could be a little bit better than it was last year.
Paolo's going to figure it out from 3. I'm so
He
confident.
He just had a really bad stretch. like
Yeah,
really,
that-
really
He hit
bad
the
stretch.
rookie wall really hard. Really hard.
I'm buying so much stock into Paolo's jump shot because I just think it's
The mid-range looks good.
like the mid-range looks really good, and like if you're that young and you like are that good around the mid-range area already, I think you project to be a good 3-point shooter. I just think it's a matter of like just figuring out more timing, how to get those shots up in the context of like defense is focusing on you. But I think his shot is going to be fine. But I just think overall he looked like a superstar in that game.
Yeah. And
really.
A lot of people were very heavily buying into Franz being the guy that takes that all-star level leap for them. And I was very adamant all summer. I was like, Paolo is their best player. If someone's going to take a very high step, it's going to be Paolo. Like, Paolo looks so like I think Paolo was better than Franz last year, and I think he's going. I think it was very close, but I think Paolo's passing ability is very underrated. So I just think the Magic are, in terms of young cores, a lot of people very hyper fixate on like OKC, but I think the Magic could
Orlando's,
be right up
there. There's just as good.
Yeah. I think the real advantage that OKC has, they have like a top 10 to 15 player. So obviously.
But I will say Paolo projects like his potential, honestly, I think is higher than Shea's. Obviously, Shea has reached a majority of his at this point, but it's a wings league, 6'10", athletic, and if he can truly be a good defensive player, that is a two-way 6'10" forward that can play multiple positions. That is way more valuable than a combo guard.
He's like mini LeBron, dude.
Yeah. In terms of potential, Paolo, the Magic have a chance to have a top 5 player in the league if Paolo plans out.
Yeah, it's
for sure.
Yeah.
I want them to stay the course. Do not Magic fans.
Don't rush it.
I follow a couple Magic fans. They're like, we need to be all in on the playoffs. Don't do it. Let this team grow naturally. Let these players grow into their role. And if they don't grow into a good enough role to be a playoff team and then a contender, move them then. But let them try.
Give them 2 years to see if they can be like a true like playoff contender.
Yes.
And then give them another 2 or so years to see if they can make another jump into contention, like title contention. And then you might have to shake things up. Like maybe Franz isn't a 2, but Paolo you think is still a 1. Then you can package Franz in like 4 years. But you don't package him now trying to build around Paolo or bring in a old vet. Like, no, you just don't. Yeah. Especially when you're not even a play-in team yet.
Yeah. But I'm buying all the Orlando Magic stock. I think they'll be the highest trending upward team in the league this next season. But with that being said, I think we got a good grasp of all these preseason games so far. A lot of more to come. And the season starts in 11 days. So we're coming down to it. So the next time you'll talk to us, we'll be wrapping up the another division preview, but we'll be previewing real NBA games. We'll be talking about real NBA games within the next 2 weeks. So that's exciting. But getting into the Pacific Division here, the teams included in the division, Lakers, Clippers, Warriors, Kings, and
Suns.
Suns, yes, sorry. And Suns. An absolutely loaded division.
This division is crazy.
Having to play these teams 4 times a year is brutal. We're going to be starting off with the Lakers. Last year finished 43-39, were the 7th seed, and they made a run to the Western Conference Finals. But outside of that, Ryan's got the rotation for us, I believe, here. So
yep. So for the Lakers, their starting lineup is going to look right now. It's all pointing to D'Angelo Russell at the point guard, Austin Reeves at the shooting guard, LeBron at small forward. I think Rui Hachimura is going to start at the 4. I think he's earned that. given how well he played in the playoffs. And then Anthony Davis is going to be running the show at the 5. And as far as their depth goes, I think backup point guard is firmly in the hands of Gabe Vincent, who they brought in free agency from Miami. Off the bench, backup guard. They've also got guys like I think Max Christie has looked pretty good, or I've heard that he's looked good in like the summer. Taurean Prince off the bench could play a lot. Christian Wood, backup big. Jackson Hayes, backup big. Jared Vanderbilt, backup like tweener 3, 4, 5. So they've got some options off the bench, and that's not even like counting like Cam Reddish, who
I want to speak to a few of these players on this back end of this roster. Everyone argued with me, and Ryan too. I remember this conversation we had. People were so adamant about arguing about us about Cam Reddish and Christian Wood signing the Lakers, and I said these two players are not contributors to winning basketball teams. I do not care how good or talented they can be. They do not contribute to winning basketball. Okay. One preseason game in, Cam Reddish looks horrible. He looked horrible in a preseason game. As a spot-up shooter, he looked horrible. He couldn't stay in front of anybody.
He didn't play at the spot-up the whole time. He had the ball in his hands. The problem is he tried to do too much. Is what he kept trying to do.
That's my problem with him. He
won't play the spot-up shooter role. He keeps on trying to be a playmaking.
And Christian Wood, Lakers fans, you're killing me, man. I thought it was over. I thought it was over. I thought, oh, we got Christian Wood at for a vet minimum. He was a 17-10 guy on the worst rebounding team in the NBA last year. He averaged 10 rebounds. And guess what? It's already starting. He's not doing anything on defense. He's letting guys blow past him. Then he wants to call for ISO on the offensive end. Yeah, he does. That's why he's a free agent at the end of September, dude. That's why he's a free agent at the end of September. Like, oh my god.
I don't think he'll play a lot though.
I don't think he will either.
Those guys didn't look good, but
but this team overall, the depth does look good. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah,
having a guy like Gabe Vincent come off the bench, Jared Vanderbilt can be very good as a defender, rebounder, as a hustle guy. Taurean Prince, if his hitting his shots, can be valuable. And although I was just shitting on Christian Wood, I think he can provide some value off the bench if you need spot minutes to get post scoring, especially against teams.
Also,
and
when he's next to Anthony Davis, one of the best defenders in the league, and also like you have to put him next to AD and Vanderbilt and run Vanderbilt to small forward, and then you put Wood in there to just ISO and play shitty defense. Like that's when you just put him into play offense and you surround him by good defenders.
Yeah,
I think
Jackson Hayes can probably find some value off the bench as well. But overall, with this roster, I think they're in the second tier of teams in the West. Is so hard for me because I think it's Denver and Phoenix, which we'll get to obviously later. But Denver and Phoenix, and I think it's everyone else filling out the rest from there, honestly, in terms of contention level, because although this roster seems to have good depth, there is definitely a world where these are you have a lot of very up and down players on the roster, and if they're down, you're going to not be winning playoff games. Like,
I don't know. I hate to say it, but I think
the Lakers are probably
going to be really good.
I do too. I think they're going to be.
I think they're going to be really good.
Yeah, I think their depth is going to be fine.
I'm gonna take back my statement earlier about those two. I think the Lakers should be in that top 3.
I think they're in the top 3. I think they're better. I think they're just as good as the Suns. This Lakers team.
Me too. Actually, yeah, I shouldn't have said that. I'm sorry. I retract that statement.
I look at their potential playoff rotation, and I look at the 8 guys that they're going to be playing. So you've got the starting 5. And even though D'Angelo Russell has playoff woes to be nice, and
he's not a bad player though.
Rui Hachimura, maybe his like shooting kind of falls off a bit. whatever. That starting five is really good when you got Austin Reeves in there and AD at the center and LeBron still at his age. And then off the bench, Gabe Vincent and Vanderbilt as your 6 and 7, I think is really good. And then Taurean Prince being your 8th guy, I think is pretty good too. Because like my thing about Taurean Prince, like I watched him the last 2 years in the Wolves, and when he's playing good, he is almost a needle mover. Like with the spacing he provides, and he plays a very aggressive style of defense, which is great for some situations, but for some other situations, it's really bad. But I still think overall, it's like your 8th guy. Taurean Prince is a really good player.
Yeah, and even then, he could be your 9th guy at times, because I think if you have off the bench, I think there could be a world where a guy, like, as much as I did just shit on him, but like Christian Wood, like, he can provide value.
He can be like an 8th guy. He's just like,
like if the matchup is right.
The reason we talk bad about him
is just super situational.
Yeah, the reason we talk bad about him is only because Lakers fans treated that acquisition like they just got like Pau Gasol or something. So
that was funny.
What it was.
That was what was that? Was that Richard Sherman on with
Skip Bayless? We can't let football players talk about basketball. Like we can't.
Especially one thing I'll say is, if you're becoming a sports analyst and you're a former football player and you're going to be on an all sports show, try to not be so close to out of the league where you haven't caught up with the NBA in 15 years, because Shannon Sharp was a football player who has no NBA connections, but he was so removed from being a professional athlete that he had been following other sports for long enough to be able to talk about them. Richard Sherman does not know anything about basketball. It's just ridiculous. But regardless, I think they have a very good playoff rotation, and they have 2 top 10 players. So they have the ability to make another deep playoff run. The one place I'll say is the biggest question mark for this team is going to be perimeter shot creation and shot making.
Half court offense in general is going to be.
They were the 28th. Yep, they were the 28th ranked 3-point shooting team last year, I think. If you are not at least league average, I just don't think the defense is going to be able to carry you. Oh, I got like Justin Bieber here going on with the humidity. Jesus, my goodness. God. But anyways, I think it's just unrealistic to think that a team is going to be able to make another deep playoff run if the 3-point shooting does not improve at a consistent basis. Because with that playoff run, you're looking at Rui taking a jump up in his 3-point shooting that he's never shot the ball like that in his entire career.
Yeah, he was making some shit that he was never ever making for a consistent period in Washington, and in the playoffs his 3-point percentage has spiked, which and even not Austin to say Reeves they're going to tank, but I think that you can project that going down, or at least like the 3-pointer kind of coming and going as the season goes on. Austin Reeves, though, I think his 3-point shooting is like pretty legit. I think he's a really good shooter.
And I also think LeBron will have a bounce back year, because LeBron had one of his worst 3-point shooting years in like a decade. When just strictly looking at percentages, looking at the team, LeBron shot like 32%. I don't think he's going to shoot 32%.
For the
it could go up. Yeah.
I think it will go up. It's not around 35 to 36 for the last 8 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So because the season before last season, he had like one of his best 3-point shooting seasons.
What was his attempts at? Because he's taking more attempts now.
He's taking a lot of shots.
He took less last year. He took 7.
Really?
He took 7 versus he took 8 the year before.
That's still a lot.
He took the 8. The 8, his historic year, he took 8 and he shot 36%.
Okay.
The year before he shot 6.5 and shot 36% again.
If Braun could shoot 36% on 3 again, that moves me so much for this team.
Yeah.
Because I think
the regular season wasn't
35.
the regular season wasn't as bad, but the
Yeah.
playoff 3-point shooting was really bad. Like
he shot
it was
20s.
I think
It was
bad. I
bad.
think it was teens. I think it was like 15, 17% or something.
D'Angelo
got it
Russell
up to
too.
26. He got it to 26.
D'Angelo Russell is a really good 3-point shooter. Like,
Yeah,
he's a really good 3-point shooter. D'Angelo Russell is, but come playoff time, we know that 3-point
the
shot,
shooting,
like, it disappears. The shooting from everywhere with him just disappears. So
yeah,
D'Lo is going to need to
be consistent.
prove that he can stay on the court in the playoffs. Because what the issue with D'Lo is not that he's like just bad or the shooting isn't there. He gets played off the court because he's so bad. Like we saw in Minnesota against Memphis, they were starting Jordan McLaughlin down the stretch instead of D'Lo because McLaughlin's not a shooter, but at least McLaughlin's going to take care of the ball. And the Lakers, they had to start Dennis Schroeder in the conference finals instead of D'Lo because D'Lo just couldn't do it.
Yeah. One thing that is nice though, they do have Gabe Vincent now. And
they do have Gabe Vincent.
Can handle the ball, and he can shoot the ball. He will shoot the ball at least. You know, he's very up and down as well. One thing that we haven't even talked about yet is Anthony Davis. If Anthony Davis can replicate his defensive impact from trade deadline on of last year to this year, this team will be just as good, if not better.
Yeah.
And if his offense can get caught up to how he's playing defensively, that'll be tremendous value. Mm-hmm. One thing, Darvin Ham, buddy, you do not want Anthony Davis shooting 6 threes a game. What are we talking about here, man? If Anthony Davis is shooting 6 threes a game, you're bailing out the defense. You are bailing out the defense. Yeah. And I genuinely do not think there's ever been a superstar player in NBA history whose coaching staffs and personal belief has had him stray away from his strongest attributes more than Anthony Davis does. My goodness, this man and his coaches and his front offices do not want him playing by the rim on defense. They don't want him dominating in the paint on offense. Like, what is the obsession with Anthony Davis trying to create Anthony Davis into a stretch 5 or 4?
It's because like
injuries probably.
He can do it. He can do it. He can do it. But that should not be his primary goal in terms of offense and defense.
Well, we say he can do it, but he like the jump shot.
It's heavily regressed.
We saw the jump shot. The last time we saw it was in the bubble, and since then, the mid range just hasn't been there for him. Yeah. It's just gone. It's like disappeared almost.
I do think a big portion of Darvin Ham's statement is just trying to instill confidence in Anthony Davis jumper at all. Like even in the mid range, because Anthony Davis has been the worst jump shooter since post bubble. Like in terms of a jump shot efficiency, he has been one of the worst in the league since then.
He's been worse than like Giannis has been.
Yeah, he's got no confidence in his jump shot. So I think it's okay. I don't think Anthony Davis is actually going to go out there and try to shoot 6 threes, and I don't think Darvin Ham necessarily wants that either. But Anthony Davis at his peak was a power forward that played on the perimeter and could move. Yes. And I think people are still in love with that idea. Like you said, front offices and coaches, and they want that. But he's had injuries. He's had an obvious jump shot regression, and he's put on weight. Like, it just makes sense for him to play more interior at this point. And I agree. I don't get the obsession with trying to go back to that outside game.
Yeah.
They want him to be on defense. They want him to try to be Giannis when that's not his game anymore. And on offense, they want him to try to be Cat when he's not anymore either. Like, I don't know. It's one of the most things because I think Anthony Davis is no question. Everyone should agree with this. One of the most talented and skilled players in the NBA. But the absolute like ridiculous obsession with trying to form him into something that he's not has has been one of the reasons he's dropped so much from people's rankings and value perspective. And at the end of the day, also, he just needs to stay healthy, which is another thing for this team. If AD and LeBron don't stay, like, they need to stay healthy. They need to stay healthy.
Yeah. Yep. That's why, like, we can just go right into our predictions then for seeding. Yeah. Like, the health concerns are why, like, even though I think they could be like a finals contending team, I don't think the record will reflect that necessarily. So I think their seeding range could be anywhere from the 2 seed all the way to like the 6th or 7th.
I agree. Yep. I think I would have them. I think they could be the 1 seed. I think it's possible. I think the Nuggets are probably better than them, but there's a world. Because people misconstrue, like, the Nuggets were only 2 games ahead of the Grizzlies last year in the seeding. So, and the conference only got better. And they're the Lakers are going to be so much better from start to finish. I mean, they were like 0-10 at one point, like, or 1-10 at one point. So, I'm going to say anywhere from the 1 seed to the 6 seed, because I think there's a world where AD and Bron can miss time and it could get not great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very similar. I have a hard time putting them at the 1 seed. I guess I could see it, but I do expect Anthony Davis and LeBron to miss a handful of games no matter what. So I think the 1 seed is basically just out of reach from that baseline. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Outside of that, though, I have them anywhere from 2 to the 8 seed. They were only 1 game ahead of Minnesota for the 8 seed last year. So if they have a similar year, gets struggle with injuries, they have to coast, and the bench has to carry them throughout the rest of the year. I think they could fall to the 8 seed. Like you said, the West got better, and that includes the play-in landscape. So it'll be tight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, next team would be the Warriors. So I can just read off the rotation for the Warriors. It's going to be.
This is a funny rotation.
This is a funny rotation.
This is a hilarious team.
So Draymond is hurt right now, and he will be there for the start of the season. So it'll be different right away. But fully healthy, I think the rotation is going to look like Steph at the point guard, Klay Thompson at 2, Andrew Wiggins at 3, Draymond at 4, and Looney at 5. And then off the bench, I think Chris Paul has to come off the bench. I don't like to fit in the starting lineup. So Chris Paul off the bench at the 1. Moses Moody I think is going to be in the rotation. He has to be. Jonathan Kuminga has to be in the rotation as well. And then Gary Payton the 2nd, I think, will be in that rotation. So that's looking like 9 guys really for the Warriors that will be in the playoffs. And
did you say Dario?
You think Dario's going to play?
Yeah. I think he will.
Okay. I think Dario for the regular season.
He's our only backup big.
Could play.
Yeah.
Playoff. I don't think so. But
I think the rotation's going to tear up. But also, Steve Kerr has
he's pretty good.
Steve Kerr has a unfathomable hatred for Jonathan Kuminga. So there is definitely a world where Dario Saric plays over.
You're right.
Yeah. This is a hilarious team. Warriors fans, you should just be laughing at how hilarious this team has shaped out. I think this starting lineup is going to be so funny going into the year.
They're going to somehow compete too.
Like, they're going
not necessarily like compete for a title, but like game to game, they will compete.
Yeah, I don't take this team as a contender anymore.
No,
I just don't.
I think they're going to be a really, really solid team, and I think they're probably second round exit with the veterans they have on their team. I think they'll still be really good.
Yeah, I mean, I can see them making a run, but
I think this team is like the definitive tier 2 contender because I think they could be in the finals if things break right in the West. You know, God forbid injuries happen to any team, but if injuries happen to the Nuggets or the Suns and the Warriors, you know, the Chris Paul fit is great. And the 3-point shooting is back, and Kuminga and Moody can be played. I think there is a chance they could. I just wouldn't count on it. With this team, but like going into the basketball, Like, after having some time to think about it, the Chris Paul trade I really like for this team, at least the present. I don't like it for the future, obviously, because Chris Paul is really old and he's going into his 19th season. But I think right now the Chris Paul trade makes this team better. Gives them something they've never ever had, which is like an actual backup point guard they can trust to close out games or like not lose every single minute where Steph is out.
Yes.
Chris Paul provides that. And I think when we're talking about this team also, like the bench is like what I think most of the attention needs to go to, because like there are no doubts about the starters, because the starting lineup was the best starting lineup in the NBA last year. It was just the depth that really crushed them in the playoffs, against LA or just the regular season or anything like that. So
pretty much as soon as Steph Curry steps off the court, the team is like the worst team in the NBA.
That's exactly how it went last year.
I think it's always been somewhat the truth because of how, other than like the KD years, because if Steph's off the court, you're just running KD out there by himself with a bunch of shooters. But the last like 4 years, it's really just been if Steph Curry's not playing, you're just losing. You're the point differential is like the worst in the league. They're 30th every time. So,
and I don't think that'll happen anymore because Chris Paul is such a upgrade over
he's
Jordan
going to
Poole as like a game manager and like
Chris Paul.
Like that.
Chris Paul is one of the most underappreciated. I think everyone has their reasons to like or dislike Chris Paul, but Chris Paul, no matter how you feel about him, you have to acknowledge the fact that he can create and sustain offense at a high level, and he always will be able to, because he's such a great pick and roll player, and he's such a great passer, and he's a smart scorer. I think Chris Paul has understood as age has taken him on a little bit more that he cannot do the things that he used to be able to do, and he understands that, and he's willing to not be overly aggressive when he doesn't need to be. But I have some serious worries about this team. Is there a defining, I don't even know how to say it. Like, is there a defining second option on this roster that you trust to create at a high enough level to be a high-end contending team, which that's their goal? Like, I'm never going to compare this team to what I think they're actually going, like, when you're evaluating a team before the season starts, you need to compare it to what their goal is, and their goal is to win a championship. And do they have a player that can do what's needed as a second or third option to create offense?
Well, I mean, it depends on if you want to put your stock into Wiggins or Clay. Because both of them, for different reasons, I think had. I don't want to say Clay had a down year, but like, he's not the bona fide number 2 championship option he used to be. That's just a fact that comes with injury and that comes with age. Andrew Wiggins had some off the court things to attend to where he missed a lot of time last season, and when he came back, he wasn't back to what he was in 2022 in time for the Warriors to really win or beat the Lakers and move on. So Wiggins is still like, I don't think he's going to regress anytime soon, because I think he's really in the heart of his career right now. So I've got faith that Wiggins can kind of return to that old form and be that number 2 option, even though it's not the most ideal number 2 option for a championship level team. I think he can be that. But bit more going more bigger picture with this team, though, like, as long as you have Steph Curry, you have a shot. That's my opinion. If you have Steph Curry,
sorry,
go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, I actually think they're gonna have like 3. They're gonna have like 3 second options. I think Wiggins, Clay, and Chris Paul are gonna have very, very similar production, and I think that's because Clay and Wiggins are gonna be a product of the Steph Curry and Steve Kerr system. Their brand of basketball is gonna directly feed into open shots for Clay and Wiggins. But I think Chris Paul on the bench is going to be playing a completely different brand of basketball. because Chris Paul isn't someone you plug into that Steph Curry system. He's not. So you have to play a different brand, which then is going to lead to basically like a different second option, because Chris Paul is probably going to produce fairly similarly to the other two, in my opinion, because he's going to get them open looks in other ways, and he's going to, you know what I mean? It's going to be very, very different.
That'll be interesting.
I think it's going to be. I think the second option is going to be a three-man job.
Yeah, like, it'll be interesting to see how they kind of toggle between like the Warriors ball, where it's like Draymond is initiating and he's handing the ball off and he's setting screens and people are flying around. Versus the Chris Paul pick and roll heavy style of basketball, where he gets the defender on his hip and he's kind of like slowing it down. It's completely different than Warriors basketball, and it'll be interesting to see how this team kind of toggles between that, depending on who's in the game and depending on the situation. It's a big responsibility for the young guys too, to be able to.
It's going to be
manage that.
It's going to be interesting to see if they're willing to change the system when Chris Paul is the only guard operating out there, because they changed the system a lot when they were in their championship run, when they had like Sean Living. No, not Sean. Yeah, whatever. When they had those guys, Sean Livingston. I don't know what I was talking about. But when he was out there, they ran a lot of ISO, and it was just like pick and roll and stuff. Like, it was very different. So, and they've gone so far away from that. I think that's been one of the problems of the Warriors over the last like 3 years, is like they're trying to force a system to players that aren't built for that system. And I think I hope that they can understand that that's not going to work this year. Like, Chris Paul is not going to run around and movement shoot. Like, he's just not going to do it.
I think he's going to have to, though.
Well, he's going to if he's playing minutes with Steph Curry. But I'm saying, like, if you have a lineup of Chris Paul, let's say like Chris Paul, Moses Moody, Kevon Looney,
Kuminga, and
Clay, like, whoever. Are you going to be running movement shooting sets for your guard? No,
you're playing Chris Paul basketball.
Exactly. So I think if they're willing to do that more, I think it's going to be fine. But
agreed.
I think you're betting on you just have to be, the system has to get adjusted. The brand of basketball has to be adjusted. But then getting into the predictions, I think they're one of the hardest teams to predict, because
they've got a range.
I could see them like 4 seed. I could also see them like 9th seed or 8th seed too. And again, I just want to say this is because I think this conference is going to be a 1 to 2 game difference, 10 to like 6. It's going to be so tight. So, but I would probably, the best bet is probably somewhere between 4 and 6, probably for them.
I think they could be either like the 3 seed or maybe like the 8th seed. So, and like really, it's a big range, because like 3 to 8 means either on the high side you are hosting a playoff series with home court advantage, or you're playing a play-in game on the road to break in and play the 2 seed. There's a huge difference in that. So I think that speaks to like the volatility of this roster. So 3 to 8 is like probably where I'd say.
I agree.
Yeah, I have them at 4 to 8. So pencil them in.
Yeah. Okay, well, then getting in the next team is going to be the Los Angeles Clippers. Last year finished 44-38, the exact same record as Golden State. Ryan, throw us that rotation.
So this team's rotation, it's kind of hard to predict almost, because they do have like a lot of options they could go to depending on who's in, who's out, what the team likes. So let me just pull up their roster. Here we go. So for starters, I'd probably say it's going to look like Westbrook at the point guard, Terrence Mann at shooting guard, Paul George at the 3, Kawhi Leonard at the 4, and Zubac at the 5. Off the bench for this team, Norman Powell, I think, will play. Bones Highland, I think, will play. I would probably think that Batum still plays a good bit. Mason Plumlee is definitely going to play at that backup.
Yep.
I think that's probably it. Maybe I don't think Robert Covington is going to play much anymore.
He's looked
maybe
good
like
in preseason.
Yeah, maybe KJ Martin plays.
KJ Martin will play before Robert Covington.
I
I'm off the Robert Covington trade, man. All right.
All this discussion on the rotation.
It's been dead for a while.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. Don't worry. All this rotation talk just for Marcus, for Clipper man to eat up all the forward minutes off the bench. Anyways.
Oh my god.
This team, these Western Conference teams they're all hilarious. I think this is going to be the funniest conference to follow because this team has so much upside, but I'm just not excited for them at all. I've been so bought in on the Clippers if healthy narrative for the last 3 years. I just don't I'm just off of it. I'm off of it. I'm just ready to be moved on. And it's kind of funny because I think Clipper fans are at that point too. You talk to a Clipper fan right now and they're like, I know we have none of our picks, but I would literally be more satisfied if we just traded them away.
I do think
this is the last
year. Their timeline is 1 to 2 more years. If they aren't healthy this year, at all,
at least one of those dudes is getting traded.
Yes, if they have a healthy year and they are really good and they have a good playoff run and they just fall short, maybe they'll run it back again. But they have to solidify themselves as contenders, or they are going to rebuild or at least restructure that roster.
Yeah, but the problem is they can't even. They can't even rebuild because they don't have a pick until 2030.
You got Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. You got to get picks somehow. They're going to have to not get any talent. They're going to have to hope that Terrence Mann and Brandon Boston and Norman Powell can fill a hole, and you get a mid. You get a mid. You get a couple mid players and picks.
Terrence Mann is considered a young NBA prospect for some reason. It's still talked about. He's 27 years old, man. How much better is he getting?
Man. Not much.
He's only in his 4th year, man. I don't see where. I mean, he can obviously.
We've seen people completely flip their game halfway throughout their careers, so it's I don't.
Yeah, but
it's look at Fred VanVleet. Fred VanVleet hit his prime super late, did he not? He was also one of those 28-year-old
Fred he went undrafted, played well finals, and then when Kyle Lowry moved on, Fred kind of grew into that starting.
Fred VanVleet got his first All-Star at 27. So
here's the question:
Terrence Mann can make that jump theoretically.
Here's the question for you though. Terrence Mann, 27 right now. You said they have a 1 to 2 year window. Let's say they blew this up in 2 years. He would be 29 years old. Are you centering a rebound around a 29-year-old player?
No, I'm centering a restructure though. So if I'm only sending one of the 2 players away, I would probably want to keep Terrence Mann because he's at that point he'd be a long running Clipper.
This team
and he's in his prime.
I agree. I can I can see where that would be coming from. This team is also very much the only team in the pursuit of James Harden, which Harden again today directly to the media at training camp said, I don't want to play for Daryl Morey. So if they do get Harden, I think their ceiling's a little bit higher, but then you have another uncertainty come playoffs. But I would much rather have an uncertainty come playoffs when it's James Harden rather than having Marcus Morris and Batum sitting on the bench and Robert Covington doing nothing. So, yeah, I just really don't think there's much to talk about when it comes to this team. I think everyone understands they need to be healthy come playoffs, and their 2 stars need to be healthy come playoffs because
that's kind of it. Yeah,
they've just been alternating years where only one of them is healthy. Yeah, it's really been the same thing since they traded for him. They've been alternating years of being healthy, or they're both not healthy like last year. And then you got a bunch of role players that go off in the playoffs, and you're like, wow, these role players are really good. Imagine if their star players were there, man. They could, win the finals. It's but they're never healthy. But It seems like the coaching staff and front office is making PG and Kawhi take this season a little bit more seriously overall.
Yeah.
So I would expect them to be a little bit better, especially if they can get up a point guard, because there is a singular point guard on this Bones, and Bones has looked good.
Bones is more of a 2, if we're being
yeah,
honest.
He's more of a 6-man guard, which in my opinion, I think people will always try to say that he has potential to be a really good player, which I think he could. But at the end of the day, he's like your Lou Williams and like type of player where it's like, you're coming off the bench and you're going to shot chuck and we're going to let you do whatever you want. You're going to take crazy shot like Jordan Clarkson. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I really don't have much to say about this team, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think it just comes down to health. Like that's what it is. It comes down to how healthy they are.
Yeah.
And if they are healthy, they can make a playoff run. If they're not healthy, well, it's just like every other year.
So, yeah. Like I really want this team to be healthy too. Like
me too.
I think Kawhi Leonard is so good still. And still one of the best players in the world. We just haven't been able to see it for a prolonged playoff run. And I really hope we can see that again, because he's so fun to watch when he's just cooking. Because he's so precise.
So efficient.
He's so efficient. He's so precise with the way he moves. I was talking about his defense on Twitter the other day. And even though the defense like just isn't what it used to be at all, it's still really good. He's still like a really positive defensive piece. Paul George has been talking a lot this summer about how he's on his bully shit this season. And how
his first preseason game, he went like 2 of 13.
He sucked. I like
Paul George is talking shit to the media, he's gonna suck. Remember he started the whole playoff Pete movement and he sucked. And he went quiet.
But I want him to play well. I want Russell Westbrook to kind of reprove himself as a player, full season with a team that wants him there, that like this team kind of needs Russell Westbrook almost, it feels like, because they need someone who's going to play fast and push the ball. Which
someone's going to show up and work hard every night. Because
someone who's not going to miss games. Westbrook is not going to miss games. It doesn't matter if he's injured or not. That's kind of why I almost like don't want this team to trade for Harden, because Harden is going to slow down this team so much. Like this team already plays slow just because of their age and their players. But Westbrook makes them pay. Westbrook forces them to play fast, which I like. So. Yeah, there's not a ton to talk about that we haven't talked about before. It just comes down to health. So for predictions for this team, I'd probably say anywhere between, honestly, like 4 and 10 could be like my range of this team. I think this team has a floor. This team has a serious floor to it.
Yes.
With how injuries go, and if they have the talent to keep up, and their bench is fine but not great, I think this team has a pretty low floor. But also their ceiling with Kawhi Leonard, Paul George is going to be high as well. So big range of this team.
Yeah, I would say between 4 and I'm not going to go as low as you. I'd say like A seed, similar to 2021.
So this is a super divisive Clippers team. I have them like 3 to 6. I think if they're healthy, they are like
that's why
they're above the Warriors in
the
West.
Oh, I agree.
And I think if they're not healthy, they're like I still think they keep their head above water at 6, and maybe they fall to a 7 seed. But I don't know. I don't think they'll be as bad as they were 2021. I think they'll hold water above the play-in. I don't see them being that bad. Norman Powell.
I'm going to challenge you with this. I'm going to challenge you with this question. In 2021, I think they finished as the A seed. They lost both play-in games. Okay.
Yes.
How unlikely do you think it is that Paul George and Kawhi both have a serious time this year and they drop? Because you're saying you're essentially saying it's less likely. No, but regardless of rest,
I'm think they're going to have to play more.
Well, I agree.
Yeah,
but I'm saying actual injury. I'm saying how unlikely is it that there's no serious injury that they had to miss expended time this year.
Oh, it's super likely. But
exactly.
Also,
so that's my thought process.
I will say though, in 2021, Kawhi missed a lot of time. Wait, are you talking about the 2021-22 season or 2020-21 season?
2020.
Kawhi missed the whole season.
Yeah.
Yes.
But Paul George, I believe. Let me look.
He missed a lot of time that season too. To be fair,
this is because they
played 30 games. They played 31 total games together, and they were the 8th seed. They basically were not even on the team together. You know what I mean?
I agree.
Like,
but here's what
I think
here's my thought.
There is no way they miss. Combined, they will both play more than 31 games, and I think
yes,
they will be. Yes, so that's what I'm saying. They will be combined. I don't know if they'll both play 50 games like they did this year, but I think next year they're not going to put together only 30 games. They're going to put together at least 50 games together, which I think will win them enough to keep them above the play.
Pelicans were the 9 seed at 42 and 40. The Clippers were 44 and 38. The Thunder were the 10 seed at 40 and 42. I can make an argument that the Thunder, Pelicans, Timberwolves, Lakers, Warriors, Suns all will probably be better than they were last year, and they were all within 1 to 2 wins of most of those teams. All I'm saying is there's a high chance that there's an injury that can severely impact the standings because
But that's for all those teams. I could say the same thing about the
I agree. But the Clippers
and the Warriors.
That's why we've already. I agree. That's why I have the Pelicans as like a non-playoff team. I think they'll be a 9 or 10 like that. But that's what I'm saying though. Like of those teams, the most likely team for that to occur to is the Clippers.
That's fair. I do think though, like you said, I think they're going to take the regular season a lot more serious. I think
I would not bet on them being the 8th seed. I would take between the 4 and 6. Like you said, if I had to
I guess there is potential they can really drop.
If somebody said put all the money on your bank account on what seeding they would be landing with the 3 spots, I would say between the 4 seed and the 6 seed, within 1 or 2 of those.
Yeah.
Like that
I
is
think
where
it's fair that they can drop. I forgot how close there were only 2 games. Also, I don't know. It's the West, and Paul George. Like I said, Paul George is talking a lot of shit. Clippers fans should be scared, and I don't know. We'll see.
I agree. I'll see. Well then, moving slightly.
I'm falling into the Clippers propaganda. All the shit talk he's got.
That's for real. Well, we'll move over a few states, go over the border to the Phoenix Suns with a record of 45 and 37 last year, finished at the 4 seed, beat the Clippers in the playoffs. Speaking of that team, Ryan, why don't you throw us that rotation that you got for them?
Yeah, let's pull it up. So for Phoenix, I think their starting lineup is going to end up being Bradley Beal at the point guard, Devin Booker at 2.
Gross. Let Book start at the 1. He can do it. Sorry.
I think Josh Okogie will be that 5th starter. I like his defense. I like his energy, his hustle, all that.
People are saying Grayson Allen. Put Grayson Allen at the small forward and please watch your team. Please do it. I would love to watch a team start Grayson Allen as their starting small forward.
Yeah, anyways. I think it needs to be Okogie in my opinion.
Or Keita Bates-Diop.
Or Keita. They both are kind of similar, like high IQ wings.
Defensive guys.
Kevin Durant at 4, and then Nurk at the 5. And then off the bench, Grayson Allen will play. Jordan Goodwin could play. Nasir Little could play. Keita Bates-Diop will play. Drew Eubanks will play.
Dubakes.
Chimezie Metu could play a little bit.
These guys got the freaking Portland Trailblazers center lineup from their worst defensive era of all time.
Hey, I've already seen the Drew is better than Yusuf Nurkic takes, and I'm like, wow,
bro,
this takes me back to 365 days ago.
Yuta Watanabe will play too. He'll
Did
play.
You say Eric Gordon?
Oh, Eric Gordon, he'll play too.
Okay, I was like, I think you just forgot to say it.
Yeah, their bench is a lot of players that can play. I'd say like kind of
it's
high
going to be
minutes.
very
Yeah.
matchup to based.
Yeah.
It's going to be very matchup based.
Other than Eric Gordon, they have a bunch of very like okay bench players.
Yeah.
Damian Lee.
Bull he sucks. He's not going to play.
By the way, yeah, he's not going to play. He looks horrible. Damian Lee, by the way, could actually have a chance to be one of their backup guards because he was pretty good for them when before they made these trades. He had surgery on his meniscus or something like that. Like he's out indefinitely, like with no timetable right now. So that's a blow as well because he was a pretty good backup guard and he
was good.
He played good playoff minutes as well.
Guess what he shot from 3?
Oh,
probably like 41%.
44%.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's
that Curry family gene.
Yeah. 44%.
I have a question for you guys because I think this is something I've seen circulate a lot. Who do you guys view as the one for this team? The one option? Because I think it's Book. I personally think Book. I think it's Book's team. I think KD's getting older. He's going to start taking a step back, and I think this is the first
Booker.
year where we see KD not be a one option.
This is Booker's team.
I think that when it comes to the actual basketball, I think the way this team is going to look like is going to be a bit like how it was in Brooklyn, where Booker is going to be the Harden a little bit, where he's going to have the ball a ton, and they're going to look to get him the ball first. But then KD is going to kind of play around that and play where he can fit in and finish plays and attack off the catch and do what he does too. KD, I don't think that means Booker is a better player than KD because I think KD is a better player than Booker. But I think within the context of this team, I think you could say that Book is the one option and KD is the 2 option.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think this is very comparable to the Giannis and Dame situation right now. I think offensively, Damian Lillard is going to be like the first option on that team because he's so much better on the offensive end. But Giannis is the best player on that team, obviously. Like he is the best all around. He will take over games. There will be games where he just takes over, and it's going to be the end of it. But with this team, the biggest question mark defensively, obviously, you trade for Yusuf Nurkic because you think he's going to be better on defense. One preseason game, he does not look better on defense.
I'm gonna say I thought he looked solid. He looked he looked better than I thought. I think he's gonna provide something on offense. They have a playmaking hole on offense where they have a bunch of scorers who are mid playmakers. And Beal and Booker are probably a little bit better than mid. I'll give them their credit. But I think Nurkic is high IQ at the center position, both defensively and offensively, is going to be better for them because Aiden had an issue of getting out of position or not making reads fast enough. And it's like, I think you have to sacrifice the rim protection for just someone that's actually in the right position because they can't risk that.
Yeah, I agree. It's the one thing I will say with Nurkic, he has looked good as a break starter and as a guy who will make the right pass when given the ball on a dribble handoff and out of the high post, which I think is something that's going to help this team a lot more than what Ayton can provide on offense. The problem that I do have with this team is, although I think Nurkic could be somewhat of a positive on the defensive end, especially with rebounding. Quick PSA: if you play fantasy basketball and want a guy who's going to get a lot of points from rebounds, get Yusuf Nurkic on your team. That's outside of that. This team defensively, who is there's a lot of teams where we question who is going to be the defensive guard / wing stopper. Do they have a single guy on the roster where you can say he's a high, elite defensive player?
I love Okogie. I love Okogie. I love Okogie, but I don't. Yeah. You can't tell Okogie to go guard Steph or go guard Kawhi or go guard fucking De'Aaron Fox and expect that to actually keep up. You can't tell Okogie to go guard Anthony Edwards or John Morant or Shea or any of these players that they could potentially match up against in the playoffs, because Okogie can't do that for an entire game.
Here's the thing. Teams, I'm going to compare this to the Bucks. The Bucks do not have a guard stopper anymore at all. There's no like super high plus defender on offense anymore, or to play guards anymore. But they have the defensive infrastructure to mitigate that to a degree. There's a defensive infrastructure around.
They have Brook and Giannis anchoring the defense. Like
this team does not have a DPOY level player to cover up the holes. Very similar to the Lakers.
Two DPOY level players.
Very similar to the Lakers. The Lakers do not have a defensive stopper, a wing stopper at all. But they have Anthony Davis guarding the rim. Like,
yeah.
This team has nothing. Like, I just don't see where the stops are coming from.
Their best defender is Devin Booker. Like, starting because Okogie might not even start. We don't know what their starting lineup for sure is.
Yeah, he might
not. We're assuming he is, but he might not.
And Beal, Booker, and Durant have all said, "Oh, we have so much offensive power now. I can take more load off and play more defense." Yeah, every single all-star superstar player that cares up with another guy says that. Like Dame is saying that. Well, Dame, you're bad at defense. You're not doing that, okay?
Yeah.
Like,
this team, like, we'll get to the offense because the offense is obviously amazing. And honestly, any doubts that one could have about the offense were proved to be wrong pretty early on this preseason. Their offense has hummed. It's just been too much to keep up with. But yeah, their defense, like I think about what if they were to match up with the Grizzlies and Jaw's back and Bane is playing well and Jaren Jackson Jr. is doing his thing offensively and defensively. Like how do the Suns defend Ja Morant? Like they have no option for a player like that.
Agreed. Yeah, you were saying we got to talk about the offense. I don't even think we need to talk about the offense because we all know amazing. What it's going to be. Like it's going to you have two
potentially historic
of the best. Yes, you have two of the best shot creating, three of the best shot creating players in the NBA on your roster right now. The one thing I will say, they do have some overlapping skill sets that I don't think this is going to be as seamless of an offensive fit as some of the other pairings. I think there's going to be times where this offense can get stagnant, and I think there's going to be times where these three players are going to get in each other's way a little bit, and you're going to get frustrated because there's going to be possessions where KD is a corner spot up shooter, and it's just like, all right, what are we doing here? But overall, this team, I think this is going to be the definition of one of those teams that's just going to be off the charts offensively, very good regular season. They're not going to need to lock in as much defensively in the regular season, obviously, as most teams do not need to, especially when they're that good offensively. But in the playoffs, I just can't. Yeah. I can't see this team being good enough defensively to be a contending level team.
Yeah,
and they can't. And really quick, one thing that's being very much overlooked: teams like this have always been buyout teams. This team can't utilize the trade, like the buyout market.
No, because their second apron restrictions are going to really screw them over.
Yes, and I just don't. I'm not a fan.
Something that we do got to talk about though, when we talk about these Western Conference teams, is every single team that we think could be a contender, you have to compare it to Denver because this shit runs through Denver. The West does.
True.
And until a team can find an answer for Jokic, we kind of just have to write him off a bit. That's my honest opinion.
It's not. I don't think it's going to be anything personnel wise. Like, it's not going to be something we can see on paper. It's going to have to be a scheme, either new or old, is going to have to be brought up by a coach in order for us to.
Frank Vogel's a good defensive coach.
Yeah,
He is.
He is. But in order for someone to truly be a Jokic stopper, that doesn't exist in a person. Like, he's shown that. He has too much skill, too much touch, too much physical prowess in the paint to really be stopped. They're gonna, and maybe Vogel figures it out, and maybe that is the reason they went for Nurk, because they were like just another big body, just to counteract the mass that Jokic is in the paint. But Nurk is historically not a good Jokic defender. I don't think he matches up well at all.
No.
KD isn't some rim protector at all.
Yeah.
Really.
The reason the reason I bring up the Jokic thing is just because, like, he needs to be schemed against. Like, you can't just throw one player on him and expect it to slow him down. But, like, you also need the right personnel to execute schemes. Yeah. The Suns don't really have that at all. Like,
I agree.
Even their back big, like Eubanks, no. Bull, get that out of here. No.
Depoy.
And even like the Nuggets, like they have Jamal Murray too. Like, how do you scheme against Jokic and scheme against Jamal Murray? Because like the Suns don't even have a Jamal Murray stopper in this team either. Jamal Murray is going to cook Bradley Beal every single time. Like, I think the Suns. I'm giving them the credit of being a contender because their offensive big three is too good to ignore. But like,
top end talent is too good.
I don't see a world where they beat Jokic. I just don't. Or the Suns.
They're in that contending tier, but I do think they're at the bottom-ish of it.
So I'm gonna get into my prediction then. I think this team is probably 2 or 3 seed, maybe 4, possible. But about that with the playoffs, I think the ideal Suns thing is hope that the Lakers and Nuggets match up with each other beforehand, and they can take care of the Nuggets before you have to, because they have a legitimate paint defensive presence. Or Ryan will smile at this, but like if the Timberwolves take a huge step, like if they have 2 bigs, if Rudy Gobert is back to a good level and Jaden McDaniels is playing at a high level and Ant is playing at a super high, like if that was like dream scenario for the Wolves.
I was saying this the other day, the Timberwolves match up very well against the Suns.
They do.
They match up very, very well.
What are you guys thinking for prediction then?
I want to make one more claim with this anti-Denver thing one for a second. I actually think in order to stop Denver, you have to have elite perimeter guards. Because, again, I don't believe in post-defense stopping Jokic, no matter who it is. You could have a backcourt of Bam and Anthony Davis. Jokic is going to get his. I'm sorry. Yes. You have to have elite perimeter defenders to stop the 2-man game. If you can stop the 2-man game, life will be easy. I don't know if it's necessary. Like, I don't even think the Lakers match up well, because I actually think you got to stop the others before
the Lakers don't match up well.
Jokic.
The one thing I will say about that, the Lakers, they did get swept last year, but it was a very close series, and they had a lot of offensive struggle. I'm not saying that they do or don't. Like, I'm not saying that the Lakers are going to beat them if they play them.
No.
But I think the Suns' hope is that the Nuggets have to play a team in the second round that is significantly better equipped to beat them.
No, 100%. And I will agree the Lakers are more equipped to beat them than the Suns.
That was more my point.
No, 100%.
Like more so, yes, but I still think the Lakers lose to the Nuggets in 5.
Well, yeah, I'm not.
Or 4.
I'm not disagreeing.
Everyone in the West does.
Yeah,
it's kind of hard.
You can say that about any team, though.
That's true.
Yeah, in terms of seeding, I have them around 1 through 3. Questions.
Same. Like, 1 to 3 for me too.
Regular season wise, there's not going to be a bunch of questions. They're going to have an insanely high offensive rating. They're going to score the hell out of the ball. They're going to run people out of the gym, and then we're going to figure out what type of team they are come playoff time. It's a new team. They've had a lot of roster turnover, so we really have no idea what they're going to look like in the playoffs.
Yeah,
that's true.
So, but I think it'll be smooth sailing in the playoff, and in the regular season. Excuse me.
For sure.
Yep. All right, and then for the Kings, Jeff, do you have to go, or can you stay for the last team?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
I was just looking behind me at something.
Got it. All right.
Something fell off my table.
Sacramento.
This team, for me, if we want to do the rotation quickly, because I think this is probably one of the more simple rotations.
Yep, I think it'll be the same as last year. De'Aaron Fox, Kevin Huerter, Harrison Barnes, Keegan Murray, Domantas Sabonis. Off the bench, we're looking like Davion Mitchell, Malik Monk. Who's that guy they got overseas? Sasha Vesenkov. Yes, I think he'll play. I've heard good things about him. JaVale McGee, I think, could play a lot. Trey Lyles will definitely play. Chris Duarte could play a bit. Kessler Edwards could play a bit. So they've got some like, backup wing, backup big questions to figure out. But overall, the team is looking to be pretty much completely the same.
Yes.
And Jeff, you kind of alluded to earlier how you're a bit lower on this team now compared to how they played last year. And I'm kind of the opposite. So we can kind of talk about that for sure.
Yeah. For me, teams like the Kings last year are prime candidates for regression because they played so many close games last year. They won almost every close game because De'Aaron Fox was absolutely stone cold in the clutch. And then on top of that, they had such a bad defense and such a great offense that it was offsetting how close their games were. And when you look around the conference, and especially in this division, which they're going to be playing the most, they are going to be playing a lot of teams that got a lot better this year. And on top of all of that, outside of the basketball court completely and what's actually happening on the court and the style of play, they had like no injuries last year. No one got hurt. Nobody missed games at all. And as sad as it is to say, entire teams do not stay healthy for all 82 games, like at all. Like that's just not a thing. So I think, obviously, knock on wood, you never want that to happen. You're never going to predict like that players are going to get hurt. But I think this team is prime for close game regression, which happens to every team in every sport that plays a lot of close games. And I think back towards the mean with missed games a little bit in their starting five. I just don't think it's realistic to expect all of your players to play your whole entire starting five to play 70 games again. Like it's just not.
There were a lot of things did go right for them last season, like the injuries and like De'Aaron Fox just like making every single clutch shot. But I believe in the philosophy of this team so much to where I think they're going to be right back in the mix as like a potential 3-4 seed again.
I don't think so. Really quick, I don't think that this team is going to regress so heavily. I just don't think they're going to be as high as they were last year.
I think they completely can be, and like they lost in the first round as the 3 seed, but they were, in my opinion, a De'Aaron Fox broken finger away from beating the Warriors and giving the Lakers a run for their money. I think the Kings would have matched up super well against the Lakers. Make the Lakers adjust to their tempo and their shooters and their style of play, and just hope the defense can hold on, which I don't think is that hard because the Lakers' offense in the half court sucked in the playoffs. But it was bad. But I love the philosophy of this Kings team. I also think that Keegan Murray kind of evolving in his game a little bit and becoming more of like an on-ball threat and doing more than just catch and shoot threes, I think could help collapse more defenses and provide the team more area to move around, and just like it adds another ripple, in my opinion. Harrison Barnes is as professional and as like consistent as they come as far as like NBA small forwards. You know what he's going to do. He's going to defend a bit. He's going to rebound. He's going to hit his shots. That's just who he is. Kevin Huerter, his 3-pointer really fell off at the end of the season, but like shooters are going to be shooters. I think that'll be back. De'Aaron Fox is like a crazy good player.
Oh yeah,
that's just who he is. He's electric. He's so hard to defend. That mid range is unstoppable. In the clutch too, he's a monster out there. And then obviously you get Sabonis at the hub, who showed last year that he is like the second best passing, playmaking big man in the NBA. Amazing rebounder, great post scorer. I thought the Warriors did play against him very well. But I don't think a lot of other teams have that same matchup against Sabonis.
They don't have a Draymond.
Most teams don't have a Draymond. Like, again, with the Suns matchup, like I think the Kings could give the Suns some problems, as can most. I mean, a lot of Western Conference teams can give the Suns defense problems, but the Kings are another one of those teams that could do it. Overall, I believe in this team. I believe in Mike Brown. Mike Brown is a great coach. They have a great culture over there in that Kings locker room, which is so weird to say, just like given how the Kings have pretty much always sucked since I've started watching basketball. But this team doesn't suck. This team's really good.
Regardless of when you started watching basketball, since like 2005. 2005.
I think I fall a little bit in between you guys. I think there's going to be a little bit of regression here by the Kings, but honestly, for some different reasons. I do agree with you, Ryan. I think there's going to be a step up in Keegan's play, and I also think there's going to be a step up in Davion's play, and I think Monk is still going to be an elite six-man guard, kind of that scoring type we were talking about earlier, what he provided for him. I actually think that the philosophy that made the kind of like that turnaround for the Kings last year will get caught up on by other teams, if that makes sense. So I think the Kings benefited from being a completely new team in terms of they had a new coach. Sabonis was just coming in, new philosophy, new schemes are being run, and they blended really well really early. So like chemistry wise, they came out hot. So they had advantages against other coaches in terms of scheme and all that. So we saw that the Warriors kind of forced Sabonis to take the midi with a more athletic wing, big defender on him. So is there going to be an algorithm or an answer to what the Kings provided last year? And I think there's going to be a little bit of an answer, but I also think the Kings are going to make a jump and improve in other ways to kind of be around where they were last year. If I had to bet, I'd pin them at like a 5 or 6 seed, kind of the lower half, but I really see them as still a solidified playoff team. The range I have 3 to 7. I would be shocked if they were in 7, and I'd be shocked if they were 3, but I can see.
I think 3 to 7 is my range too, with more faith in the higher side of that range. Like, I'm not gonna, because I like this team so much, I'm not just gonna discount the fact that they could fall off a bit, because I think that's a possibility. Obviously, injury can derail any team, but like they were extraordinarily healthy last season, and maybe Fox's clutch numbers go down a bit, or maybe the whole team's clutch numbers go down a bit. And teams have just kind of figured them out more. That there's a chance that happens. But I'm high on this team. I think they're going to be good.
I can't disagree too much. I think for my range, honestly, I think our ranges are a little bit similar. I think my high end, you guys said the 3 seed. I would say probably more towards 4, 5 to 8, probably 4 to 8, maybe 5 to 8. I don't see them being out of the top 8 teams, but I do think there's firmly 3 to 4 teams that you can say aren't going to be better than them, and you can bet, barring injury, obviously.
Yeah, but I would bet on at least some sort of combination of Lakers.
I think Suns. You could make the argument that all 4 teams in their division might be better than them.
I was about to say that. Yeah, this division might be like, other than the Nuggets,
the top 6 seed. Like, there's a pretty good chance that the top 6 seeds are Nuggets and these 5 teams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
This division is really strong.
Good.
There's so much
Really, really
firepower
good.
in this division. Like as far as superstars, because you got KD, Book, LeBron, Curry, Kawhi. Fox, I think, is like an actual
Fox,
star
Paul
now.
George. Yeah.
Yeah.
And even borderline star, you got Sabonis. Clay's a household name. Everyone knows Draymond.
Yeah.
Like
Pacific Division those games are going to be electric. Late night games. They'll all be close and they'll be competitive.
Oh my God, yeah. The late night Pacific time games are actually going to have a headline going on this year.
Last year they were horrible. You're staying up to watch like the Warriors blow 30-point lead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it was like I can't remember, the Clippers or somebody else had like a bunch of national televised games at like 7 p.m.
They had a lot of them
every
late,
time.
like they had a lot of them in the beginning of the season when Kawhi wasn't playing.
Yeah, no one was playing. I was like, oh.
Yeah. Well, with that being said, I think that pretty much wraps up the episode today. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll be back next week with our final division preview. We have been severely busy, so we have been lacking the ability to schedule times. So I appreciate all of us. Appreciate you two and everybody that watches every week being flexible with the days and times that the episodes are coming out because we've been extremely busy.
Yeah,
I think once the season starts, it should be easier to get a schedule going because we can just record at night after games are done. So, but with that being said, do all of the good stuff as you always should. If you are not subscribed, hit subscribe down below, leave a like, comment, and go check out all of our other videos, clips. Check out, follow us on all of our socials. Join the Who Has Hoops community on Twitter if you want to talk ball with a bunch of people all the time. And that being said, peace out and have a good one.
Peace.